Good afternoon. We're glad to welcome you to our SAP Tech Talks webinar. A few words regarding the event organization. The webinar will be recorded and then posted on our YouTube channel. You may ask all your questions in the Q&A field. Our today's speaker is Aleksandr Polygaev, and the topic of his webinar is SAP Ariba, the ultimate digital procurement solution that simplifies your life. Aleksandr, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So, hello everyone, and I will be your speaker today. So let me quickly share the deck. One moment. So our topic is the SAP Ariba, the ultimate digital procurement solution, and yep, I'm the speaker, Polygaev Aleksandr. So I have 6 years of experience in implementing SAP Ariba and other procurement solutions. And also I work both as a SAP consultant and as an internal IT team that supported SAP Ariba. So I have experienced the full cycle of this solution, really, from the implementation to development, supporting, and even decommission. So I hope I have some interesting point of view on this matter. So our agenda for today, firstly, we will speak about the procurement in general. So the target audience for this tech talk is the people that never worked with SAP Ariba, really, and the people that have limited experience with procurement in general. So I will try to explain what the procurement is, what is like the cycle of the procurement, and how it works. And after that, we will talk about what is SAP Ariba, how it works, what are the different modules of SAP Ariba, and then we will discuss the modules themselves. Right? So procurement in general. So let's discuss the main stages of procurement. There are more than that stages. It's more of a simplified version. So the first things first is we need to identify the requirements for procurement. And as an example, let's discuss the situation where you need to get a laptop. So in our case, identifying the requirements is the model of laptop, or if not the model, then the technical requirements for this laptop, and when you want to get it. After identifying the requirement, we go to supplier onboarding. So we need to get the laptop from one of the suppliers. Some suppliers we already have in our system, and the suppliers that we previously worked with. And some suppliers will be the new suppliers for us. So on this step, we will invite them. After searching for all the needed suppliers, we go to the sourcing step. In the sourcing step, we ask the suppliers to provide us the information regarding their capabilities, what kind of laptops they can provide for us, and the terms for these deliveries. We request the different RFIs and RFPs, request for information and request for proposals, and even auctions, in order to determine which supplier is the best for us. And after we find this best supplier, we have to negotiate the contract with them. And after we solidify our relationship with such a supplier and we have a contract, we can create the purchase order, a purchase requisition, which will be converted into purchase order. We will send this purchase order to our supplier, detailing how many laptops we need right now and where to deliver them. Then will be the delivery of our order. And after that will be the payment. Payment actually can be before the actual delivery, it depends on the terms, but usually it's after delivery. So the main steps, the main process kind of ends with the payment, but there are two additional steps. There is the supplier performance evaluation, which is kind of unnecessary, but it's actually good. So in order to determine how good was our experience with supplier, we evaluate these suppliers, and also the analytics step, where we collect all the information from our procurement cycle, and we analyze it. How can we improve it? So the procurement cycle in general can be broken down in two separate groups. So the first group is the upstream procurement, which also sometimes is called as sourcing, sometimes it's called as source to contract or S2C. So in this cycle, our sourcing specialist will collect the specifications, he will research the market, he will manage our category strategies, which may vary for different categories. Like for laptops, there might be one strategy where we invite the most amount of suppliers in order to get the lowest price. And for like something more difficult category like unrefined ores, for example, we look for other characteristics of suppliers. And after the category management, we have the strategic sourcing step, which is like the sourcing, where we collect all the information from suppliers regarding our item that we want to buy, and then there is the contract management. So the upstream process is usually managed by the sourcing department. Sometimes it can be called like differently, but generally there is the one group of people that manage the upstream, and their work usually ends with contract management. And then there is the downstream process, where we have already have a negotiated contract, and we just want to request for the item directly and receive it and process payment. So after contract, we go to the request, and now our procurement team process such requests. They send orders to our supplier. The supplier conducts the delivery, then goes the receipt and payment. There is a quality assessment, and there are some refinements, right? So there is like really two cycles, and two groups of people manage them, and there is a in between steps, which is the supplier management and analytics. So supplier management is usually on a step where we invite suppliers to our sourcing activities, but actually the supplier management is a constant ongoing process, which really can happen anytime. And the analytics is analytics. You always collect the data and you always analyze it. So what is the SAP Ariba? So this would be like the highest architecture level of them all. Sorry, guys. And in this highest level landscape, how Ariba is implemented in our IT systems. So we have the ERP system. It can be SAP ERP system or ERP system of other company. And this ERP system is integrated usually with Ariba. It sends the master data, and it exchanges source to pay data, right? And then SAP Ariba is integrated with SAP Ariba network, where all suppliers are gathered and where they work, and we exchange the information with the suppliers. This might be sourcing information, supplier management information, procurement information like orders and receipts. So yeah, before we deep dive into Ariba modules, let's briefly discuss the other SAP systems that help you in procurement. So the first one is SAP Ariba, and currently this is the most advanced tool from SAP to cover our source-to-pay processes. SAP Ariba is cloud-based. It's a SaaS solution. It's easy to manage and easy to administrate because it's an out-of-the-box solution, meaning that we have all the tools to set it up quickly and use it quickly. And it's also easy to use. It's user-friendly, really. And SAP Ariba is connected to Ariba network, where we communicate with our suppliers. The next one is S/4HANA, which is the SAP's latest ERP system. In S/4HANA is sometimes used as the procurement system, but it also has capabilities for managing the sourcing activities. It's also cloud-based. Sometimes it's on-premise, and it's S/4HANA. I hope you know what S/4HANA is, right? So the next one is SAP SRM. SRM was the previous specific for procurement tool from SAP, and SRM was it was an interesting solution, but unfortunately soon the support for this solution will stop. And the main differences between SRM and Ariba is that Ariba is more user-friendly, and SRM is kind of more heavy than Ariba in some sense. But SRM has a lot of more room for improvement. So there are much more interesting things that you can develop in SAP SRM, but it comes with the cost that it's harder to support and it's harder to implement, right? And the last one is SAP MM, which is the model for SAP ECC. And the SAP MM's main focus for the about the procurement processes, not sourcing. And we will not discuss the SAP MM more. All right, so the models of SAP Ariba. So I divided these models into 3 sections. First section is the upstream. Upstream is the sourcing. It's the source to contract process. In the upstream, we have the strategic sourcing suite, which consists of sourcing, SLP, and contracts. Those are the main modules. There is also the risks modules. And well, discovery and guided sourcing is not a standalone modules, but I separately mentioned them because they seem interesting to me and I want to discuss them today. The next part is the downstream, the procurement, the P2P process, which is procure to pay. So the main thing here is buying and invoicing, which covers all the process. But also I wanted to discuss separately the guided buying, the snap, the spot buy, and the catalogs. And later in this session, we will discuss all of these modules. And then there is the SAP Ariba network and span analysis, or SAC. So they are kind of additional modules that work with SAP Ariba in general. The network is the module, but it's not really a module, but the part of the Ariba solution in general. The SAP Ariba network is the place where suppliers create their accounts, receive all the information from the clients who have SAP Ariba, and negotiate with suppliers through the Ariba network and communicate with the customers. Right, and span analysis is the analytics tool which works with all the other modules. So let's discuss these modules first. So the SAP Ariba network, this is the place where our suppliers create account, and after they create their account, they found themselves in a place where they can connect with customers that use SAP Ariba, and they communicate and send all of the information, documentation, details related both to the sourcing and procurement processes through this Ariba network portal. The main things that I want to point out for the network is that the main part of SAP Ariba really, in order to work, is that you have to onboard your suppliers and you have to help them, because if you do not communicate with your suppliers through the Ariba network portal, the whole process is kind of flawed. Because of that, it gets increasingly complicated, and the onboarding of the suppliers, and at least onboarding of the key suppliers, is a necessary step, really, that shouldn't be overlooked. And the next tip is that you should really reduce the communications through other channels. So it's better not to use Outlook. It's better to use the SAP Ariba network portal to communicate with the suppliers, so that you would be able to refer to that information back later, and to make it that your communication will be saved and you can access it anytime. After that, the other model that is applicable for the whole Ariba is the spend analysis, and the spend analysis is the kind of old thing, and new thing is the Spend Analytics Cloud. But simply put, it's just a reporting tool of entire procurement cycle. And the thing with the spend analysis and the SAC is that you have to treat this tool like it's a BI tool. So if you're having such module, then you should consider integrating this tool with all the systems that are involved in your procurement processes, because if you do not integrate it with all of your procurement solutions, then you won't have the complete data from this reporting tool, and you will really lose on the value of this module. So yeah, if you decided that you want to go with this module, be prepared to integrate it with all the other tools, so that your reporting will be complete. Now, let's talk about the upstream process. So upstream process is a strategic sourcing suite. There are three modules, really three important ones. The first one is sourcing, where you make all your bidding with the suppliers. Well, you ask your suppliers to provide the relevant information regarding your sourcing processes. So you send the suppliers the invitation for your sourcing process. You use different steps like requests for proposals and auctions, and you collect all the data from the suppliers, and then you decide which of the suppliers best fits you. Then there is the SLP. SLP is the module for managing your relationships with the suppliers. SLP stands for supplier lifecycle and performance. There's also the older version, supplier information and performance management, SIPM. The new one is SLP. And the last one is contracts, where you, create contract with your suppliers, right? Then there is the guided sourcing and discovery. It's not the real modules, they are just parts of the sourcing solution. And then there is the risks, which is like an add-on to SLP. So let's discuss these modules. So the first one is sourcing. The main thing with sourcing is that it's not really different from other sourcing solutions from other providers, but it has some additional tools that should be used and should be leveraged. So the main thing about the sourcing is that there are advanced tools for your bidding processes, right? And mainly it's the auctions. So auctions is a great tool, which is, by my experience, often unutilized by the customers. So auctions are great because they're quick, because the process for auction usually takes like a couple of days for preparation, and then a couple of hours is the auction itself. In some categories, it can also lead to good money savings, but generally speaking, it just saves a lot of time. And that's the main thing that differentiate the sourcing from some common tools like Excel and Outlook, because you can't really make an auction with Outlook. And the next thing is discovery. So because SAP Ariba has the database of suppliers that are registered in the Ariba network, we can access this with the suppliers and invite them to our sourcing activities. So the next thing is guided sourcing. Guided sourcing is the part of sourcing, and its design is to make a quick sourcing activities for some specific cases, right? So it's just like more simpler version of sourcing that is more user friendly, and its main goal is to save time on the specific categories that you have decided that you will use with guided sourcing. So the main things that I would like to suggest is to just pay attention to what categories and limitations you use for your guided sourcing. And the thing here is that you have to define the limit of money when you can initiate the guided sourcing and which categories will go through this guided sourcing. And if you do your work correctly, some of your sourcing activities will go this easier path and will be much quicker than the standard sourcing is. And the next thing is that because guided sourcing is a relatively new addition to the SAP Ariba, you have to pay attention of the updates related to the guided sourcing, because it is constantly changing and the new functionality is added. And right now, guided sourcing is kind of more simple solution than the sourcing itself, but I assume that in future it will be on par with the big sourcing, right? So the next thing we will talk about is, sorry. The next thing that we will talk about is the supplier-related modules. The first one is SLP. So SLP is the module where we invite our suppliers, create their profiles, collect all the information related to this supplier, and then we also evaluate our suppliers, we qualify them, we make the preferred vendors, and we go on the process of performance management for the suppliers. The things that really differentiate the supplier life cycle, the SLP module, from the more standard vendor management tools is that we actively involve our supplier in the process, and in some sense we put some share of the workload on the supplier. So generally in other systems, we collect somehow the information from suppliers, and then we manually add this information to the system, or we somehow maybe import this information, but we do the steps ourselves, right? Like as a company. And with SLP, we ask the suppliers to provide us the needed information, right? So we send them the questionnaires, which the suppliers will fill and answer all of our questions. And then we collect this information, we approve it, we ask additional information if we need to, but the majority of work is like on the supplier himself. The suggestions that I would give in relation to the SLP module is that like the thing that really helps the process is when you leverage your supplier self-registration ability, right? You don't just only ask the supplier to fill the questionnaire and answer some kind of form and answer some kind of questions. You actually have an ability for the supplier to invite himself for you. And there is a way for the supplier to like stand out and just come to you and fill all the information about himself, and all you have to do is just approve or request some additional information, but the main workload is really on the supplier, and it's great because it saves you a lot of time. The next thing is that historically the supplier related processes are really complex. Well, that's because there are a lot of money involved with the suppliers and all of the corruption stuff. So really, I would suggest evaluating these processes, really looking into other necessary, because right now there are a lot of automated screenings of suppliers, and you don't have such risks as before. The last thing is that there is also the performance part of the SLP, right? It's not just supplier lifecycle, it's also performance, where we evaluate how great was our experience with the supplier. Would we like to work with him later? And what should we change about our relationships with such suppliers? And I would say that usually this part is left behind as the backlog, but that's really great tool that was not available before, and you collect a lot of information that previously was hidden from you, right? So I would suggest looking into it if you have the SLP. Next one is risks. Risks is a pretty simple module of automatic screening of the suppliers. It is integrated with different providers that check the supplier's compliance and the risk related to such supplier. And the only thing that I can add to that is that just make sure that it works in your country, because it doesn't work in every part of the world, right? The last thing is discovery, which I previously mentioned. So the discovery is the process where you invite existing suppliers from the SAP Ariba network into your sourcing activities. And the thing about discovery is that it's not just a global database of suppliers. It's the suppliers that want to work through Ariba. And usually, if you find such suppliers in SAP Ariba Discovery, they have a much quicker onboarding processes. And yeah, it's a great tool to get additional suppliers on board. And really, hardly ever it hurts to add additional suppliers to your sourcing activities. The worst thing you can do is you can just disqualify them, and you don't really waste a lot of time, because you can the onboarding process is really simple, right? But sometimes you can get a lot of benefits for such suppliers. And the last thing about the upstream process is the contracts. The contracts is the module where we process and store our sourcing contracts and related to the sourcing activities documents. And the thing with contracts is that it works best when you have other solutions like Ariba sourcing and Ariba buying, which we will discuss later. Because if you have SAP Ariba sourcing, you can automatically create such contracts from your sourcing activities. And if you have buying, then you can use such contracts to create the suppliers' catalogs. And also, if you have the SLP or if you have a field glass, you can further improve these models. So having a lot of other SAP Ariba modules really works well with contracts. So that's the upstream. Now let's move to the downstream processes, which is the procurement. The main thing in the downstream is the buying and invoicing module, where all of our procurement activities are really created. But also there is like guided buying, spot buy, catalogs, which I wanted to mention separately and discuss their capabilities separately, because they're really interesting. And there is also the step, which we'll also discuss more on that later. So buying and invoicing. The buying and invoicing really is just a model for the whole procure to pay process in one place, right? So all the way from your request, all the way to the invoices. And the buying is really complicated on the inside. It has a lot of different flows, different tools for different situations, but it's pretty simple on the outside, right? So the buying is pretty user-friendly. So the main concept of buying really is that you want to make your procurement processes easy to follow and transparent to users, so that the users could process it themselves, right? Because usually all of the procurement steps are done by the procurement team, which is the separate people, which drives the costs for your procurement processes. And with addition of buying, you can move a part of this work to the users themselves. So what are the tips for the buying? So the main one is that the buying has a lot of tools, and we will discuss them later. And you should really look into these tools, right? So they greatly improve your procurement processes. And there is a different tool for different situation, and yeah, that's the main strength for the buying. And the other one, that depending on the categories of the items and depending on the location of the requester, you can have different specific rules, different flows, different like requirements by the governments to process these flows, and you can combine all of them. And the combination of these different flows can be done seamless to the user. So the user, when he will order his laptop, would not realize how many works goes into his request, because in the background we process all of this different information, which kind of item he wants to order and where the order takes greatly impacts the process overall. So the main tools of the buying is the guided buying, in my opinion. So the idea of this module is to guide the user through your company's policies, so that the user would be able to create his purchase request correctly without any help, right? And that's the main goal, so that some just a regular user like me would be able to create the requisition for the items that he needs without asking for help, and doing this request correctly, so it does not violate any policies or any legal complications. And the guided buying makes it by utilizing the special flows, the special guides, as some can say, where you ask the user regarding his request in a friendly approach, like asking the user to select the location and asking the user some simple questions like, are you ordering it for yourself or for the other person? And depending on these simple questions, you navigate the user through the request. But the main problem with this concept is that before user could use such flows, such guides, you have to set up them, right? And here, the main tip is that you should follow the flows where there is a lot of quantity, right? Where there is a lot of requests for the specific categories. For example, it can be laptops. If there are a lot of requests about laptops, you should consider creating this special flow for laptops, so that users would be able to create their requests. And another tip is to make it as simple as possible for the user, because your end goal really is that the user would be able to do all of this work without any involvement, really. So you don't ask for help for your administrator or your procurement specialist, that you would be able to do it yourself, right? And without using any guides, any additional documents, or any additional trainings. It should be user-friendly. The next big thing is the catalogs. So the main concept of the catalogs is that you leverage your relationships with the suppliers, so that you exchange the information about the items that you can procure from such suppliers. And you can do it both like in uploads of the files, the manual uploads, but also you can create a thing called punch out, where you like in some form befriend your suppliers, and you integrate their positions into your SAP Ariba buying, right? And the idea here is to make the procurement process more like an Amazon experience, right? Where you don't really know what you want to buy, what you want to procure. You just need some kind of well, let's say you want some kind of bag for your laptop, and you can just access such catalog, view which bags are available for your location. You can see if they are available for purchase right now, and then you just select the one that you need and go on with your request. which is much easier compared to like a more old school setup where you try to find for the position in your ERP system for the back. Like if you have experienced it, you know what I mean. So the tips on the catalog is that punch out catalogs are a great tool. Really, they are. And if you have the relationships with the suppliers, then can provide you with such punch out catalogs, you should consider it, especially if you have a lot of requests with such suppliers. And the thing with punch out catalogs is that you also access the information that you previously wouldn't be able to access, right? So using punch out catalogs, you can see which items are available on a supplier's site right now, and is there any changes to those positions? And sometimes the details for such positions. The second thing is that the second tip is that the catalogs and the problem with the catalogs is that like it revolves the establishing a long-term communication with your suppliers, long-term relationship, really. So you kind of invest your time, you invest your resources in building such relationship, and you should consider this before implementing it, right? But in my opinion, it's definitely worth it, right? Then there is the SAP Ariba Snap. The SAP Ariba Snap is the easier version of the buying of the big module. It has the limitations on which customers can buy such solution from SAP. It's only intended for small and medium businesses, and its idea is to quickly implement such buying solution so that the customer would be able to step up his procurement processes, right? So in a way, you can say that Snap is like a gateway module for digitalizing the procurement itself for such companies, because usually the small and medium businesses don't have any other procurement solution in place. Maybe they have a ERP system, but not always. And Snap just opens the doors for such companies. And the next thing is that the implementation itself for the Snap is it's a quick win. It's a quick implementation. It's 12 weeks, judging by the documentation, and the scope of such implementation is limited in a way how many processes you set up during your implementation. But really, you're not the Snap is not the half of buying. Really, you have all of the technical tools available for you. It's just you quickly implement it, get your value, and then transform your processes, right? And the last thing about the buying is the spot buy. So the spot buy is the solution. It's for tactical purchases, how they call. It's the small purchases that you usually don't plan beforehand. So that might be some urgent things that you need for your processes, for your projects that you have not planned beforehand, and maybe some quick changes arrived, and you just need the thing. And without the spot buy, in such urgent cases, usually the procurement goes around the procurement solution, right? If your time is really limited, you just say, well, okay, I will just order it online and somehow process the sorry and somehow just documentate this purchase. Maybe you will have like invoice, but the rest is undocumented. Like this tail spend is not traceable without spot buy, and spot buy allows this by working with the global suppliers like Amazon, and you can quickly order items from such suppliers, and then you will have these small purchases traceable and reportable in your system. And the things that I would suggest is just to define the conditions for such urgent purchases, right? And write such conditions in your procurement guidelines so that your users would be your users would use this tool, right? And yeah, spot buy is actually a great thing, and if you don't use it yet, I highly suggest using it, because you will also receive the information that previously was not accessible to you. Okay, so that's it about the modules of SAP Ariba. Let's have a quick summary of what we have discussed today. So the strategic sourcing suite, the upstream. The main thing with the upstream is the collaboration with your suppliers. And if you do not have such collaboration, such connections, your process workflow will be flawed, right? Collaboration with suppliers is super important, and this is one of the main things that drives Ariba. Well, upstream at least. The unique tools provided by SAP, such as Ariba Discovery, is a really great tool, and it's one of the main advantages, in my opinion, compared to other solutions. The discovery base of suppliers is big for Europe and USA, so you should use it. And in upstream, the modules really work best when they are combined. And it is especially true for the SLP, for the supplier module, and for contracts. If you have other modules of SAP, these two guys work really, they become like the much more better versions of themselves. And buying and invoicing, without collaboration with suppliers, your P2P process won't be easy, because there are a lot of steps required from a supplier's side for your P2P process. There is the processing of your purchase orders, there is invoicing, there is shipping notices, there is all of the different documents that you want from supplier, and if you do not collaborate with such suppliers, you will have problems. Different cases require different tools. There is no silver bullet, unfortunately. Sometimes you want to make a catalog for items, sometimes you want to have a spot buy, and sometimes you want to have a guided buying process. It depends on the category, it depends on your processes, and depends on what your company does. Really, you have to analyze it. And the keeping in mind the number of transactions and like the quantity should drive your changes when we're talking about buying and invoicing. If you have a lot of transactions for a specific category, you should consider somehow improving it through your buying. All right, and That's it from my part. I hope it was interesting for you. And now let's move on to the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander, for an interesting speech. We have a few questions. The first question is, how does SAP Ariba support data analytics and reporting for procurement insights?
So how does SAP Ariba works with analytics?
Yeah.
So if you mean the spend analysis tools, so they really work just as your regular BI tool. So this is a one stop for all your procurement information. You just gather all your information, and then well, you can analyze it in this tool, or you can export it and go to your BI tool and then analyze it there. It really depends on your situation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, what are the main challenges organizations face during the implementation and how can they overcome them?
Okay, so in my experience, the main problem with implementation, like the main challenge when you implement SAP Ariba, and I think it's true for all of the SAP Ariba modules, is that SAP Ariba in some way is a predefined solution, right? So it supports different workflows, it supports different tools, but there is the thing called best practice from SAP, where SAP recommends doing the thing in a specific way. For example, let's talk about suppliers. So SAP in general recommends doing one step, the request step, then the registration step, then qualification step, and you can't really change this. You can't switch these stages between each other. So the main challenge comes with the business transformation, in my opinion. So because Ariba works in such predefined way, you usually have to transform your current processes, and you have to in some way adapt them to the SAP Ariba style, right? Which some customers do not like, but generally speaking, the SAP best practices, they are a really good thing, and you should listen to them.
Okay, thank you. While you are generating new questions, we encourage you to join our community on other social networks like Facebook, Telegram, LinkedIn, and of course, we are community platform via the link in the chat. By the way, don't miss the registration for our upcoming SAP Tech Talk, The Art of Agility, becoming a better agile leader. The registration link is available in the meeting chat. So here are some other questions. If we implement procure to pay process in SAP Ariba, do we need to implement it in SAP ERP system as well?
So generally speaking, when you implement the buying for your P2P processes, you want to move your procurement processes in a buying solution, right? Sometimes there will be exceptions, and you can actually define flows based on the category or the country. So you might have, for some categories, you have the process in SAP Ariba. For some categories, you have processes in buying. And when you set up the buying, when you implement the buying, there are also different ways how buying is integrated with S4HANA, really. So you can implement it the way that all of the documents are processed in Ariba, and only on the later stages the invoice itself is integrated to S4HANA, or you can create the process where you only create requests in Ariba, and your purchase orders and other documents like invoices are processed in the S4HANA. And the Ariba is just the place to generate the requests from the users, so that you can save some money on the licenses for your S4HANA and make the request step of your process pretty, because buying is a pretty solution.
Wonderful, thank you. One more question. What are the integration options of SAP Ariba with third-party systems?
Depends on the module, really. But because SAP Ariba is the solution from SAP, the main idea is to integrate Ariba with S4HANA or other SAP solutions, right? But yes, you can also integrate it with the third-party systems, usually through the APIs, but APIs are different for different modules. So you have to check forgot the word, guys, sorry. What these APIs do. So you can go to the developer API portal of the SAP and check which APIs are available for which module, what are the capabilities, and how you can use them for integration with the third-party systems.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for today, can you share any insights into the future developments or upcoming features planned for SAP Ariba?
I guess it would be incorrect to ask me such question. I would say that all the more up-to-date information can be found on the SAP portal, but right now SAP is working on updating the current Ariba solutions. We receive updates every quarter or every second quarter, and all of the change logs and plans and the road ahead, they can be found on the SAP site, depending on which module you're interested in. The SAP is pretty clear about their plans for the future in this regards. So yeah, I would suggest going to the SAP themselves and checking the information there.
Perfect, thank you. So I think that's it for today. Aleksandr, thanks a lot for such an inspiring and valuable session. As already mentioned, our today's webinar recording will be posted on YouTube channel. The links to the recording will be sent separately. Colleagues, thank you very much for your participation and have a nice day.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.